And just think back to when we were kids, the idea of us being broadcast out to potentially anyone in the world.
Dozens of people.
No, but I'm saying potentially. There's potentially billions of people that could be watching us right now.
Potentially,
it's like when they say the
potential.
Olympics. The Olympics, it's this year 15 billion people watch the Olympics.
Yes. It is
Potentially 15 billion people.
It is the upper limit of the potential of people that could be watching, you know. I actually wonder if YouTube actually has a maximum amount of like people that could watch a clip at one time, a live stream at one time.
It wouldn't be as high as you think it is. Wouldn't be as high as you think it is. Like, yeah.
It's like if for whatever reason, 1 billion people tried to watch a live stream on YouTube, like it would just crash the entire platform.
Yeah, for sure. But I think Twitch has got up to like 1 million simultaneous people from memory.
On one stream? Or?
I believe, like, it's definitely over 100,000. I'm just trying to check it. Oh no, maybe it's like half a million. But that is insane. That's like
super insane. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, surely there's something like maybe a sporting event or a major thing that's been live streamed for some reason on YouTube, and lots of people have watched it. I wonder what the maximum amount is.
I don't. Yeah, like a good example is the States. They have Sunday tickets, so you can live stream the NFL, but it always crashes and it's like really dodgy. So that surely would have the record, but they don't publish how much that is.
Yeah,
it's come a long way from Inklink and WWE, WWF. What was it back then? Those online
WWF
chats?
chat.
I thought you said Inkling. I was like, what?
Inklink.
Inkling was
Okay.
awesome.
Was
I was like,
awesome.
I'm just playing so much Splatoon. I'm like, what? Anyway. All right, we're live, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah, I assumed we were.
Ready whenever you guys are.
Cool.
Yep. All right, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Big Week in Gaming podcast, and what do you know, it's been a big week in gaming. I'm Swinny for episode 98 for this Sunday, the 2nd of October 2022. So in this week's show, we'll be discussing Google finally pulls the plug on Stadia, Koei Tecmo and EA team up to go monster hunting, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is in the market to buy a leading game publisher, and our impressions of Spider's new steampunk soulslike Steelrising.
Shut up! Big Wig's on the radio! Shut up! It's gaming from the Stadia!
All right, welcome everyone again to the Big Week in Gaming podcast. I'm your host, Swinny. I can't hear the music, and for some reason I looked away once integot gave me the pointer there, so that's why I was delayed. If you'd like to support the show, we'd love to get you to subscribe to the show on YouTube and or your favorite podcast app. If you're a mega fan, come join us on the Discord. All the links are in the description below at bigwigpod.com. So joining us today, we've got our executive producer integot.
Hello. You're stumbling over your words today.
I am, because I realize my setup, and Mike, you can't talk yet. I haven't introduced you. I'm like, okay, I'm looking here, but then I'm looking here. This is a bad setup for my second shot at hosting. And also joining us today is Mike.
I'm allowed to talk. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
I just realized we both have like post-shower hair. It's
Yeah.
funny. Like normally we have like hats or whatever.
Well, I was thrown because I'm like, I looked away and then I'm like, oh crap, he's probably giving me the finger because we can't hear the music at the moment. So
Well, that's a
Gave
clip
me the
right
finger,
there.
right?
He's probably. I looked away and he's probably giving me the finger.
probably give me the finger, and then I'm like waiting for you to have to give me the second finger. So
I had to reinitiate the finger.
yeah, so it is a bit of a learning curve, this hosting thing, especially when we can't hear the music, so I'd have to rely on
I
that
like how
visual
you guys
cue, so.
always point out the technical stuff. Like on like TV stuff, when things go wrong, they just roll with it. It's like
It is a little.
I didn't
all
say
right,
it
the
is
music's
the little-
gone. The music's gone.
It is.
It's out of the
it
show
is-
now.
What
It is
music?
Next
it is a
episode, there's
literal
no
reason.
music.
It is the literal reason why I screwed up there, so that's why I'm saying it. How are you guys going? How you been? Mike, we haven't seen you in ages. It's been like it's been quite a
I
month.
just missed 1 week, I think.
No, but then
month.
we had a break, didn't we? Or we
Yeah.
had something. It was weird there, so it feels like I haven't seen you in like 6 months or something.
Even though I actually saw you in person less than 2 weeks ago, I think.
I know.
And I
I
hadn't
talked about
seen
it
you
in
for
the show.
about a year or
In
something.
real life
since I
doesn't
saw him.
count.
No, real life doesn't
Yeah,
count.
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Only virtual
that's
people count.
that's Mike, your mic. So,
That's right.
Integot, how you going? How you been?
Yeah, good. Just living life large. There's been a lot of public holidays in the last few weeks, so it's been kind of very disjointed at work.
Yeah, what happens? Like, we obviously got the grand final like Friday or whatever it was.
Which is the most bullshit public holiday of all time. But yes, go
I
on.
agree. I like having a public holiday, but I think
Sure.
the reason is bullshit. But because the was it? I don't know what they officially called it. Was the official mourning day or something of the Queen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one
Yeah.
off
The day of mourning, I think.
day of mourning for the Queen.
Yeah, and that was the day before the AFL Grand Final day here in Victoria, in Australia.
No,
so
the
we ended up
day
having a
off before the
4-day.
public holiday.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so it ended up being basically a 4-day weekend, which was awesome for us. So.
Crazy. The funny one, because, okay, so Queen's birthday, there's a public holiday for Queen's birthday for those who are not in the Commonwealth. And it's not when the Queen's actual birthday was, it's just whenever the state governments want to choose. So it's different days in different states. And just so happened that the Thursday public holiday, which is for the morning of the Queen, was every state. Then the Monday, Queensland and WA had Queen's birthday, where Queensland still called it Queen's birthday, and WA changed it to King's birthday.
Oh, interesting.
So
I didn't
yeah,
know
this
that.
weird event where
So
it was
wait,
like
they had
the morning
the morning
of the
and then
Queen
they
on
had
the
the
Thursday,
birthday?
and then celebrate her birthday in Queensland on the Monday.
Wow.
After.
That's interesting.
At least WA said it's the King's birthday. I think that's okay.
Yeah, that kind of makes more sense. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I've always been confused about the whole Queen's birthday thing, it not being her actual birthday. So does that mean that going forward it's going to remain the same day and it's just the King's birthday?
It's likely
Yeah.
that it will. So, like, when her actual birthday was, there was a special event in England, like at Buckingham Palace.
But we don't know when because we don't want to dox
It was like
her.
July or something like that, from memory.
Yeah, don't dox the
Yeah,
dead.
don't. Oh, jeez, don't.
Well, the
dox
king
the dead
now.
queen.
The king now. You don't want to dox the
Jesus.
king. You don't want people to know Charles's birthday.
It's actually true, man. Like, think about that. Could you register a credit card with Charles's name? Because you got so much information about
because
him.
you got all the info. Well, you don't even need that.
maybe-
You just need the Optus.
And he's an Optus customer.
Yeah,
so-
that's what I was about. Damn, you ruined my joke. I'm trying to
slow,
get in
too
there.
slow, too slow.
I wasn't too slow. I didn't want to cut you guys off.
You're like
I
the
didn't want
guy
to
in
cut you off.
the back of the queue on that Blacked video.
Well,
you just got to get in there first.
I'm like, just give me a second to say you must have been an Optus customer.
You're the slow tadpole. I'm just straight in there.
Let's just say I have opened up credit cards with the name Michael instead of Mike, which technically should not be allowed, but it is.
Wait, but
So
your
clearly-
thing doesn't say Mike, does it?
No, but like
Your passport.
no, but it doesn't say any of those.
Show me your
technically.
passport on stream.
Okay, hang on. But the point is, it seems like you can
McLovin.
technically open up credit cards in just about any name you want, which is really bizarre.
I actually, so I probably shouldn't even say this because people are so psycho to go back. But remember the time where I showed my address? I'm like, gotta cover up this box that you guys sent me, and then I showed it on stream, and it was like perfectly framed here. It's just like that's my address.
I thought you were going to talk
about.
I thought you were going to talk about someone. I think it was it you, Mike, that had a fake UCLA like identification?
Yeah, we made
card
it.
In,
We made it
in
at
high
my
school?
house.
I'm not confirming or denying any
I can't
of that
believe
information live on stream.
I can't believe we actually used that and it worked. It's like I think
To
the
be
thing
fair,
is,
we're underage, so I don't know if retrospectively they can.
nah, it's fine. But you actually look so much older for your age though. Like you always
did.
have. Whereas
Yeah.
I've always looked younger. Like I was getting carded all the way up to my late 20s. So
Damn, but that's good. That's good.
yeah, I don't know.
But I wonder if it's a bell curve. Like, will I age quicker as well, or do I just maintain
bell
that
curve.
oldness for
What does
longer?
it even mean? I'm trying to
like-
understand the framing of it as a
Well,
bell
is
curve.
it like,
What
am
do
I
you
am I
mean
sort
bell
of
curve?
like?
Is it a bell curve?
Well, I mean, you know, some people, they,
You're saying you get to look
they
younger
age at a
later?
certain rate. Yeah, like, did I hit my
Oh.
peak of age, and I kind
You've
of
peaked. Yes, you've
maintain,
peaked.
like
You've
Keanu
definitely
Reeves.
peaked. You've
You
definitely
think about
peaked.
Keanu Reeves, right? Keanu Reeves kind of peaked, and then he remained
Say that man's
kind of
name
the
again.
same for 20 years.
Say that man's name again.
Mr. Reeves, you know. Hey, speaking of
You
which,
said Keanu Reeves or something.
no, Keanu. I actually watched.
Canterbury.
Shut up! You know I
I
mispronounce
know.
things.
No,
I'm a
I'm
fifth
not saying
immigrant.
you. I'm not saying you said that. I just laugh. Like I don't know what. That's like the easiest joke to make in the world. I've never heard it before.
Can of
I
Reeves.
wasn't trying to make a joke,
Can
but
of
I
Reeves.
did actually watch. Well, I don't know if this is kind of. It is kind of related to gaming if you've seen the movies, but I'm not going to spoil anything because it is related to gaming if you get what I mean. But I did watch the latest Matrix on Netflix.
Resurrected.
Yeah, have you guys seen that?
Is it Resurrected?
Something like that. Probably.
I'm sure it is.
It's
the
what
third
you
one.
call it.
Isn't
if
it
you
the
had to
third
call
one?
it something.
Actually, my joke was that that's the third one, but it might actually be the latest one.
It's something like that. Something, I'm sure.
It's
Resuscitated.
Reanimated or
yeah. No,
Resuscitated?
you're right. You're right. No, you're
Resurrected?
right. It's Resurrections.
Resurrection.
Wait, is that the newest one?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I actually
yeah.
meant to say the third
That's pretty
movie
good.
as a
Well,
joke, and
yeah,
I
what
said
is
the
the
latest
third one
one.
called again?
You had
How did I do
Reload. What did you have? Reloaded or is
Oh,
that some-
Revolutions. Oh, I was meant to say
Revolutions was the third one.
Revolutions. Oh shit!
No, this is a new one. Well, I won't spoil anything about it, but I did watch it. Let's just say can't recommend it. Sorry.
Well, now you have to
I
spoil
don't-
it.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that. That's
Yeah, it's pretty
statement.
Why
I
would
haven't
you
watched
watch
it, but
it?
I'm.
I mean, you watched that Jupiter Rising movie,
I hated
Oh
that.
God.
and then you go, "Oh, might get some more of that." Might
Jupiter
go back to that
Ascending.
well.
Jupiter Ascending. That movie was.
Oh, Jupiter
and that
Ascending,
Movie,
yeah.
That movie was one of the worst I've seen in cinemas.
But that's what I'm
Just can't
saying.
get his little elf ears out of my head.
You guys have literally, like, sorry, not you guys, but Mike, you've got, like, literally the last movie. What's her name? Lana Wachowski made was Jupiter Ascending, and then Matrix Resurrections.
Wow.
What a run! What a run!
There's jokes I want to make, but I won't, so I'll just shut
What?
up.
Go on.
Yes, no, do not make any
What
jokes.
jokes?
Let's move on to something I've
About
got
the
to actually
Matrix.
correct.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Something I want to correct. It's actually more of a retraction from last week, right?
Yeah.
So, Mike, you probably wouldn't have heard this, but I gave a shout out to a developer of the game Astria Ascending that was leaving Game Pass on the 30th of September, and they did a late patch to fix a lot of the glitches and allowed people to complete it before
I heard that.
it
I
was
listened to it.
leaving.
Well, after.
Let's just say I'm retracting that shout out.
Why?
The devs already said
because-
thanks for the shout out.
Yeah, it's too late now.
Yeah,
no backseats.
no, they didn't.
You can't pull.
Because-
It's too late to pull out.
No, come
Oh
on.
no, no.
Been there, done that. Didn't work. I gotta pay child
Because
support.
Plan B.
I'm retracting because it hit the 30th of September. The game has left Game Pass, and I have not completed the game.
Oh, I see what's happening.
This is for some frame of reference. This is a $60 game, by the way.
Okay.
The latest patch that they released broke another achievement.
Oh,
They
no.
fixed other things, broke this achievement. Nobody that had, basically started after that patch was able to complete it. So I'm retracting my shout outs. Now, if they end up patching it in the future, I'll have to buy it to just
So
unlock that patch
this is like a
achievement.
strategy. This is good. This is for OCD people. Break your game all the way through the Game Pass period,
So-
and then patch it post Game Pass, so then people have to buy
so
it.
you have to buy
Psycho
it.
OCD people like this motherfucker.
I am not going to lie that idea did cross my mind that someone
You're
That's
gonna
what I'll
do
do.
it. Cross your mind. You would
Sneakily-
totally do it.
sneakily thought, hey, why don't we
Hang on.
fix some stuff but slightly break this other thing so people will have to buy it when we post patch after. Oh, man. Anyway, so I'm just retracting that shout out because it was very frustrating to spend 60 hours in a game and it's not.
60 hours.
And you can't complete it now.
That sucks.
Actually, honestly,
you have to
honestly,
pay
it's
for
less
it
than that.
now.
It's like maybe 45, 50 now I think about it. But
That's
yeah.
still
it's-
45 hours of your life, man.
That's a rounding error. That's still a lot of
The game
time.
was all right.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't like, like as a
Just
game, it was
like
fine.
that resounding endorsement of the game. The game was perfectly fine.
It was
been
all right. It
was
wasn't
alright.
great.
Better if it wasn't broken.
I said it was broken.
Just
Yeah.
the achievements,
So-
anyway.
So, Mike, I actually wanted to open the floor up to you a bit here. So, last week we talked about the new NVIDIA series of graphics cards that they announced. And as the most, I guess, enthusiastic person about PC hardware and knowledgeable on the show, you weren't here to give your overall thoughts on the new range. So, I just wanted to do play a bit of catch up and just get your opinion on these new cards.
Yeah, my opinion is fucking video. I'm moving to AMD. Okay, not quite. So
You're moving to Intel, the Arc platform.
to Intel. You know what? They fucking look good. They're the kind of cards I want. If they had
Explain
more
to
performance,
Explain to Swinny.
they don't look like gamer cards.
Explain
they
to
look
Swinny.
like nice, aesthetically pleasing, normal-looking cards that I actually want to put into my PC. Not crazy gamer cards. Anyway, let's just backtrack a little bit. So,
Yes.
a couple of things. First of all, the strategy of releasing the flagship card, the 4090. Don't like it because I can't afford a 4090. I think a lot of people can't afford a 4090. I think they're trying to make it look like it's now actually the best value card, even though it isn't, obviously, because it's insanely expensive for what it is. And the issue that I have is the way they've been segmenting the 4080 series. So there's a 4080 16 gig model, which you guys probably covered, and a 12 gig model. And really, the 12 gig model is effectively a 4070, although some people joke that the bus speed is actually gimped to a 4060 level, if you could equate it to that. Not quite. But the way they've segmented that and the way the prices have come out as a result is just insane. It's actually really seriously put me off going with NVIDIA for the next generation. So I'm going to see what happens with AMD. I think the whole graphics card thing is completely different territory than what it used to be. I remember when, if you paid $1,000 for a graphic card, holy shit, dude!
Yeah,
Like most of my graphics cards were sort of around the 700 tops mark, and that felt expensive. $700 for a graphics card. And now the norm is going to be over $1,000, no problem, for anything semi-decent in the same sort of tier, if you could call it that, as what those cards used to be. Now, of course, they're way more performance, but we're talking relatively speaking here, right? You kind of expect performance to increase over the years. So I'm really I'm not keen on it. I'm not really happy. I'm also tainted from the release of the 30 series and the fact that not only could you not get them properly at launch, what happened with crypto, we all know. It became really, really hard to get them. And eventually when prices started going down, they put this bullshit. So I don't know. I've kind of lost my... I've lost my interest in sort of upgrading and stuff because I feel like I don't want to give them that kind of money. But I am keen to see what AMD come up with, whether they're going to be, competitive. It's interesting that Intel Arc, okay, performance-wise, it's different, and they're going to struggle because of driver support and other stuff as well. But I do hope that they go well, just because you need that competition, especially with what Nvidia is doing at the moment.
Do we know the timeline of when the next range of like AMD stuff will?
Could I just pause for a second? Because just while we're on the 3080 and 4080, we do have to correct something else from last week. I'd heard it in the moment, but I didn't have a chance to check it. I think, Swinny, you said something along the lines of the 3080 to 4080 was a 25% increase in price, or some.
I was just going off approximate things that VGC had said.
Yeah,
was that for the base model?
Yeah, no. So exactly, like you have to compare the 16 gig one. So it's like a 70% increase in price.
Fucking insane.
Like how insane is that? 70% increase from generation to generation. You won't have the crypto effect now with Ethereum and the ASIC mining for Bitcoin. So the crypto thing's not a deal anymore. It's like they've literally just like consumed the inflated pricing and set that as the RRP. So,
Yep.
but yeah,
much, yeah.
AMD, when are they doing their showcase? That's when
I don't know when the new series. I know.
It's like November.
Okay, November. Awesome.
No, we spoke about it last week.
So yeah, I'd be keen to see what comes out. I'm also ever so slightly it's kind of cool, but kind of I don't know. I don't think I'll jump onto the 7000 series bandwagon for the AMD chips. I think the chips that we have integot are sweet for what they are. I think they're going to last us a while. I thought you ended up with the 5950.
No, I've got the CPU.
Yeah, the CPU. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm talking about the CPU. Yeah, I think with the CPU, I'm kind of like what I'm seeing about the 7000 series is mostly just because of the sheer amount of heat.
Oh, you're talking about CPUs now.
Yeah, CPU. Sorry,
this has turned into the
no, because I
PC
started thinking about
gaming
AMD.
podcast.
No, I'm not as for some reason I'm just not quite as excited about that either. I think performance wise and everything's really cool, but then also from a gaming perspective, the 5800 X3D is still fantastic as a chip. That until they release the 7000 version of it, I don't think it's worth really upgrading to the 7000 series from a gaming perspective. And from a performance perspective, hell yeah, like some of the benchmarks of the 7950 are nuts, but then they run super hot, and most people like you and I, even with the chips that we have, is probably almost overkill, you'd say.
Well, we will wait to see what they show off for on the graphics side in November for AMD, and then we'll, I guess, be able to do some comparisons there. But for now, let's talk about.
Sorry, sorry. Just touching on. No, because I haven't finished. I haven't finished because this was only this week as well that people are talking about it. Mike, the Intel Arc. So Intel now. You didn't explain it to Swinny. So Intel are getting into the graphics thing in a real way. So like really, you've had Nvidia, which is like probably 80%, 90% of the market, Swinny, and then AMD with the Radeon series. But now like Intel are really trying to push in. And like, it's kind of exactly what I was saying last week. This is like super interesting to me. Like Intel are pretty much going to release a GPU in the next month, which will be like a 3070, but half the price of a 3070. So it's like, like to me, it's like I'm not crazy. I'm not buying the 3080s, 3090s when they come out. So to me, like I'm actually seriously going to check out the Intel Arc when it comes out, and then also the new Radeon series, because I can't see myself getting an Nvidia chip. Like I do want to upgrade, but it's just ridiculous the pricing. So yeah,
totally agree. And with the new tech that's come out, I think one thing that's interesting is DLSS 3. That is a cool piece of tech, and that's actually initially why I got into, well, not got into because my previous card was NVIDIA as well, but given the choices, I went with them just because I thought it was a really cool piece of tech. And it was. A lot of the games that I played using DLSS on, performance was great. However, with FSR now available on all cards, it changes the equation. And whilst it's close to witchcraft what DLSS 3 does, it's bullshit that it's only available on the next series of cards of the 4000 series. I don't know technically if there's a reason why. I just feel like they probably did intentionally to get people to upgrade.
And it has to be supported. There's plenty of brand spanking new games that don't support it.
And that too.
Whereas FSR is supported by default. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I can't see myself getting an NVIDIA card, but I do need an upgrade because my card's like so shit.
Dude, the 3070, what I use, perfectly fine.
Yeah.
1440p.
If I can get it for a good price. But yeah, cool, Swinny.
Yeah, so I guess I'll hand back to you, Integot. What have you been playing this week?
I've just been smashing Splatoon 3 like crazy. So I'm up to like 50, 60 hours in the game or something like that.
Jesus, that's
It's
nuts.
like, it genuinely is like, it's such an awesome game. Like, the disconnects haven't been as bad for me recently, although today I struggled to get into a single game for a while. But it's just such a cool game. Like, I hope with the DLC now that it's going to be mostly just single player focused. It's probably going to come out in a year. But yeah, I've just been smashing the multiplayer, been doing a lot better than I did with Splatoon 2 because I'm focusing more. I'm trying to be not competitive, but just like being a bit smarter about what I'm doing rather than just,
You're still avoiding that card game mode?
Not avoiding it, but I'm playing through a little bit of it. I just don't find it that compelling, to be honest. It's too basic. It's too simple. Like, and it's just like RNG, I think, like the way you play it. So I do have like a bit of an OCD thing for the game now where it's like, I like to collect these badges in game. So you have to play a bunch of this table turf mode to be able to get all the badges. And then the other one is Salmon Run. Salmon Run is like so misunderstood. Like it's the horde mode PvE of the game. It's so freaking cool, man, what they've done in this version of it. And supposedly people were data mining it. I'm trying to like keep out of the loop of that, but I think there's some big Salmon Run event coming up, which is really, really cool because they've only ever had like Splatfest, which is always PvP. So a PvE kind of like Splatfest version would be really, really cool. So highly recommend Splatoon 3. I think it's a very, very, very good game. And the other one is I'm bloody trying to finish these Picross games. So I've literally put like 50 hours into this Picross S2. I'm still finishing it. It's like, they're so difficult, some of the puzzles late in the game.
Are you going through all of them in sequential order, all
No.
the Picross games?
I own S3 and S4.
Okay, because I think they just announced S8.
Yeah. every 6 months, I think they release it. And I'm not buying any more Picross games until I finish all. And I actually would be really surprised if I actually buy another Picross game because they take so long to finish. Like I thought it was just really bad, and then I heard someone talk about Picross like S3 or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, it took me 100 hours to finish it." I was like, "Okay, well, I don't feel as bad, but man, they take a long time. Like seriously, they can take like half an hour to solve one puzzle."
I have no idea how involved it is to create Picross puzzles in these games.
Yeah.
Or if it's something where they just go, okay, we'll create pixel art and then our system or engine will generate and then we just do the fine tuning to make sure it's possible to beat. But it is like their business model of you get the value out of each one you buy, but the fact is that literally it could just be DLC packs for the same thing.
Yeah.
Because they do, there's some changes here and there, but the ones I've played, it's just literally okay, maybe a different color menu, you know.
Well,
and obviously all new puzzles.
Weird thing is that with S8's release, they actually updated all the games. Right? So I've been playing S2, like it's been out for years, S2. It's like literally been out since 2018, right? And I was playing it and then like I booted into it. I'm like, wait, the colors are different. Like this is weird, right? And then it actually gave me options of like, so it's gone back to the 3DS mode where you can actually use your finger to like, you can tap to actually fill things in, which is cool, right? Because that's what I used to do actually with the stylus. But I got so accustomed to button controls, so I don't do that. But the thing that shits me with it is that when I never have assists in Picross, right? Of course, right? And I'll never use hints, never use assists. For some reason, with this update, they've introduced further assists, right? So I turned them all off. Then I started completing the puzzles, and it gives me a different badge. It's as if all the other puzzles I finished had assists, and then the new ones are like the pure clean. For a split second, I was like,
go back.
Yeah.
For a split second, I was like, shit, do I have to go back? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But
Wow, he says that now.
No, I'm not. But yeah, it's like the thing is, when I look at people finishing Picross, I'm like, how do they do that? And then I realized they're not doing the Mega Picross mode. You probably haven't seen that one, Swinny, but it's not just one column. It can be like 2 columns that you have to solve.
Yeah, I think I have seen Mega Picross.
That makes it way harder. That makes it way harder. The single one, I can crush those ones so quickly, but the Mega Picross, it's like you have to really like logic it out sometimes. So yeah. But I'm enjoying it. But how about you, Mike?
Pretty much just one. Well, okay, actually, before I talk about the main game, I did try Moonscars, even though Swinny said don't touch it, because what happened was the developer came out and said there's a critical game bug towards the end of the game that some people may encounter. So I'm like, look, I'm not gonna touch this game until they patch it. But I was curious, very curious. I had to give it a crack, and yeah, look, it was all right. I don't know, something about it doesn't quite click. But I think once they patch it, I'll play it properly, and I think it's the kind of game that I would actually finish.
So Moonscars is it's a Metroidvania Souls-like-ish game, which is surprise. But yeah, it was added to Game Pass. I actually tried it out as well, and
Cool.
There's nothing about it that made me go, oh, I should be playing this than playing more Blasphemous or something like that. You know, like I'd probably. Oh, no, but Blasphemous, they're so similar. They're basically like your Metroidvania Souls-like games, you know, so...
So far, I definitely prefer Blasphemous, just in terms of the aesthetics and art style, because I find with Moonscars, I don't know, maybe it's just a case of getting used to it. The palette is very bland. And not necessarily in a bad way, don't get me wrong. It's just that it's quite restricted, whereas something like... I love the pixel art in a game like Blasphemous. It was just really, really, really cool detail. So that was a main one. But probably the biggest game that I've been playing the most of is Deathloop. So it came out on Game Pass, so I've been playing it on half sort of an Xbox and half on PC.
Didn't you already own it though? On PS5?
Yeah, on PlayStation. Yeah, on PS5, yeah.
Okay.
Well, because I kept it for PS5 because I thought we'll all end up playing it. And I remember I sort of asked if you guys wanted to hit it. And when it came on Game Pass, I'm like, oh, look, I'll just give it a quick crack just to see what it's about kind of thing. I knew the premise, but I never really looked into it that much. And then I got hooked. It's a really cool loop. and literally a loop, death loop. Yes, it's got a really cool gameplay loop that is awesome to play, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it almost feels like a roguelike in a way, but not. It's hard to describe it.
Yeah.
Once you get the concept and how the game works, it's really, really good. It's slightly confusing at the start how it's structured, but then once you get the hang of it, you go, okay, I get it. It doesn't hold your hand per se, but the developers have made it so you can kind of, track certain quests, if you can call it that, through the loops. You don't have to, keep a piece of paper to remember how to do every single tiny thing. And it's I really want to talk about it, but I'll reserve talking about it properly until you guys actually play it. But the one cool thing that would actually be awesome if you guys played as well is you can play as Juliana, which is so if you're the aim of the game, again, without spoiling too much, is you got to kill bosses. I won't say exactly what.
A little bit spoiled.
I don't want to spoil anything.
Very unique
But
concept.
exactly, yeah, that's as
You
far
have
as
to
I'll
jump
I'll
over
take
Goombas?
that. You got to jump over Goombas in this, and in the map there is another character that you talk to at the start of every map and sometimes in between, called Juliana, which as you play you kind of uncover who she is. And again, I don't want to spoil anything. But what's cool is you can get invaded by this Juliana, and it can either be AI, or if you've got it set to online mode, it can be another player that actually invades you.
Oh, that's cool.
Kind of Dark Soulsy. But if you have friends that play the game, you can actually set it to just invade your friends' games, and it's a pretty cool concept. So I reckon it's sort of balanced fairly well from what I played so far. It hasn't felt like, oh no, here we go, it's Juliana, but at the same time, it hasn't really been too easy either. It's a really good balance.
I am
awesome
very
concept.
happy I'm not playing this at the same time as you, because if our history of playing Gears of War multiplayer is anything to go by,
don't worry.
I would not want to be hunted by you in a bloody
I am not that
first-person
good at
shooter
it.
game.
I've tried being Juliana and I wasn't particularly good, and I don't know if that's also because I played on Xbox, but it's got cross-platform on, and maybe I invaded some PC player's game, but I got slaughtered every time I tried. So, but it's a really cool concept, and all I can say is, in recent memory, it's one of the coolest, most engaging games that I've played. It really is. It's a freaking awesome game. I love it.
I could play it after
really worth
getting
checking out,
through
yeah.
Last of Us Part 1.
I actually not weirdly, but I was actually planning on playing a bit of it, but the whole Astro Ascending thing threw my schedule out of whack, because I wasn't expecting that game to leave Game Pass. So, yeah. But I'm looking forward to trying it out. It's good to know. It's good to know it's cross-platform. I wonder how that works with the whole friends invite only thing, because I was actually going to play it on PS5, because that's
Yeah, I'm going to play it on PS5 as
Yeah.
well.
I'm not sure how that would work. Yeah,
Start playing it on
that
PS5.
perspective. I think it's more that because you can get invaded by other people, but it's crossplay in the sense that my understanding is that a PC player could invade you, but I don't know if you can get your friend to match up if they're on a different platform. I don't know how that works, if it works at all. But all I can also say is, before you start, there are a few things that hit me up. There's a few things that you're like, huh? So, okay, one thing that I would say when you do start it is it's got a tutorial, so to speak, where there's no point doing certain things, because you dare I say wasting your time until you kind of go through the loop a few times. And but for someone like me who's like, oh, I got to explore everything, check every single little nook and cranny, you realize it's probably not worth doing that until you get to a certain point where the loop starts properly. So yeah, just play the intro properly for an hour and a half or whatever it is, and you'll see.
It does seem like there's an update, so you can play PS5, PC, and Xbox Series all against each other.
Sweet.
Cool. So is that all, Mike? All you've been playing?
That's pretty much it.
Well, for me this week, I've been playing a lot of games to really catch up on my Game Pass resolution. I'm not going to talk about many of them today, but I will mention a couple. But before I talk about the games, I actually just wanted to just give a bit of a, I guess not a shout out, but Cyberpunk Edge Runners, right? I just want to kind of just get this out there that if anyone's even interested at all in the Cyberpunk world and loves things like Gurren Lagann and those kind of like really cool stylish anime, Cyberpunk Edge Runners on Netflix is really, really cool.
It is very cool,
It's got, and weirdly, it's one of those kind of shows that it's not like the be and end all like some people are saying, but it does kind of stick with you. Like there's the way that it all plays out and ends. It's kind of, and links back into the Cyberpunk world in terms of just even things like music cues. Like, so they use music in the show that is from the game. And, you know, I've mentioned in the past that I think the game was really snubbed in terms of like the soundtrack and original soundtrack that, you know, in terms of recognition for that, because it was overshadowed by all the bullshit with the game. It's really brought more life into that as well, where there's, you know, a huge group of people now coming into the game from that show. So really, really cool. Just don't expect it to be the best thing you've ever watched. I think it's really, really cool. But yeah, so
it was really
Edge
good.
Runners.
Did you finish all of it as well?
Yeah.
Same. Yeah, I finished watching all of it, and really cool story, really cool character progression, stuff like that. The animation itself is you can tell it wasn't the biggest budget, and it probably wasn't made in a long period of time. It's not probably the quality of some of the standalone animes that I've seen, but it is really good. It's just, you can tell how they've taken certain shortcuts in certain animations and stuff like that. But nevertheless, totally worth watching for the story. It is in Japanese, so hopefully
it's in English and Japanese. It's both.
Oh,
there's a dub and a sub.
I didn't see the option. That's so weird.
Dude,
I
come
tried.
Subs before dubs,
Dude.
Mike. That's not a problem.
I
with
watched
the
subs.
Japanese.
No, I did it. I watched with English subs, but I also thought, I actually checked and I could not find an English version.
I've actually heard the dub's actually pretty decent as well.
Okay.
So
Shit,
I think you'd probably be fine either way. I did watch it in Japanese, but yeah.
Same.
In terms of games I've been playing, so the first one that I'll talk about is a game on Game Pass called You Suck at Parking. Now, this is a game that I knew nothing about except for, you know, its splash screen kind of gave me an idea of it's going to be like a fun little arcadey game. But what this game is it's basically like, it's structured like a mobile game in a sense that you complete levels and you get stars like out of 3 for it. But you're navigating around the world as this little, it's like a taxi style car. And the levels are basically these short little skill-based puzzles where you have to park in multiple different parking spots, but you can't stop your car moving in at all. Otherwise, it like ends that turn and spawns you back. And it's taken down. It's like a isometric or like bird's eye view style camera setup, so it basically ends up feeling like almost like a skill-based puzzle version of Micro Machines in a way. And it's really, really neat. I actually played it for quite a while. It gets pretty tough because they start throwing in things where there will be cops that start appearing, and if they hit you, then you get arrested and you get respawned. So you have to find a way to make the cops fly off the track. There's loop-the-loops, lots of like crazy antics. Really, really neat little game to try out, especially if you've got Game Pass. You know, you could probably get your fill of it in maybe 40 minutes going through the first couple of worlds. And if you like it, you know, there's more to grab onto there. So that's You Suck at Parking, recommended by Swinny. But the game that I actually think more people should actually play is a game that also came to Game Pass called Proteus. So Proteus has been out for a while on PC. I don't know how long it's been around for, but it was in almost like an early access, I guess, state. Now the game is actually full release. Even though weirdly on Xbox it still says game preview on the box art, it's actually it's a 1.0 game. It's not actually a game preview
And
game.
weirdly enough, it's not available on PC Game Pass, I think.
I don't believe it is. No.
I tried. I wanted to do it on PC as well. Couldn't.
Yeah. So Proteus is like a retro style first person shooter, and a lot of people are making the whole comparison to Doom because visually it does look a bit like Doom or like Blood, like Duke Nukem 3D style graphics. But the gameplay to me almost plays closer to something like Quake 2 because you know it's a modern feeling game. You got full camera control, of course, and everything, but you can aim down sights, you can reload your gun, so it feels there's modern touches to it. But there's another game that weirdly, like the structure of the game, reminds me a lot of Super Mario World.
Yeah,
it's
because of
really,
the
really
overworld.
weird.
Yeah.
So you leave when you complete a level, you're on an overworld where you move around, basically like Super Mario World, and levels can have, just like Doom did as well, and Wolfenstein, there's like multiple exits sometimes in levels. So there's kind of this whole thing of, I want to potentially, not in every level, I don't think, but I want to find a second exit in this first-person shooter retro game to then unlock a new path on the map to get to a new secret and stuff. It's really, really neat. It's thankfully, you can customize a lot of the visual options if you don't want a lot of the crazy scanline pixelation graphics. You
and
can
the
kind of
360p. So the default is the art style. I mean, it's part of the art style. It's 360p,
Yeah.
so it's super pixelated and stuff.
Yeah.
But I turned it off and then I actually turned it back on because I kind of liked it.
I'm the
in that
same.
version. Yeah.
It's clear that they were going for something with the default visual settings, so I tried a few things and stuck it back. But
And how addictive is the gameplay? Like it's really good. The weapons feel really satisfying. It's a really solid game.
it is. It's got the whole. It is very Doom in the sense that finding a red key to open a red door and things like that, and you find secrets and you get 100% and stuff.
And even
But
the
really
enemies are so Doom inspired. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but it's good. It works. Yeah.
But Proteus, I really recommend it. I actually
Same.
might go back to it. I played it for quite a bit, but it was really fun.
But it's not on PC, right?
Did I?
It's on PC, but I don't think it's on PC Game Pass.
Yeah, I don't think so. Well, at least when I
What?
checked, I couldn't find it. Yeah, because
That's
I started on
bullshit.
Xbox, and I'm like, I'll jump on the PC. Maybe
Let me look it up.
I didn't even
because
know
I think
that they
it was,
could do that. That's bullshit.
because
man.
it was on Steam already. So
Yeah, but why have it on Game Pass if it's not on PC
That's interesting.
and
Yeah.
console?
I don't know why, but I'll just explain you why it's already on PC, because it was on Steam and then got brought to
Sure.
to Xbox.
It is a shame.
I'm just
'Cause
looking.
it's so solid. Joe would love that game. I reckon.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up now. If it's double checking, it's not on PC Game Pass.
I can't see it on PC though.
No, it says it's on PC Game Pass, Mike.
It is. Okay.
Yeah, according to True Achievements. So
But I don't get it. Okay, fair enough. When I searched, I couldn't find it. Maybe they just
Yeah,
added it.
Probably the dodgy app.
yeah, you probably have to find it via the Windows Store, and it takes you to the bloody app. to
Yeah,
open
maybe.
it. Bullshit. But yeah, so that's Proteus. But the game I actually will spend a little bit more time today is some, I guess, extended impressions of Steelrising. So Steelrising is the new action RPG from Spiders. So Spiders are the developers of a bunch of games I love, and some of them, are not so great, but I still love them all the same. That includes things like Of Orcs and Men, The Technomancer, Mars Warlogs, and more recently Greedfall, which I've talked about in the show quite a bit. But those games were more sort of traditional action RPGs in a sense. With Steelrising, they've moved into the Souls-like genre, and this is a Souls-like through and through. It basically, I know when this game was announced, my initial thoughts were, this is going to be like your Greedfall, where you got like a hub world where you can like towns and cities and subquests and dialogue options. They have some of that stuff, but it's scaled back, and it's really all about the Soul-style combat, the Soul-style level design, the whole risk reward, finding a bonfire style thing, having to get back to your body to recover your soul's equivalent. It's got an Estus class, so it's basically souls. But I put about probably 20 hours into this game. I was planning on completing it to review on the show, but unfortunately I didn't start the game for a while because there were a couple of issues with it and a couple of broken achievements. So I decided to wait for them to patch them to make sure it was all good and didn't cause any issues. And even in the first patch, they've introduced a new game plus mode. They've done a lot of rebalancing. Spiders are really good at actually, doing those ongoing optimizations with their games. So it's really, really cool. But Steelrising, so the setting is, if anyone doesn't know, it's set in like a fictionalized version of like the 1700s in Paris, under like the reign of King Louis XIV, and 16th, and it's basically the whole of Paris has been taken over by these crazy robots called automats. So you play as one of them called Aegis, and you're basically on behalf of the Queen having to figure stuff out and take down, basically just save Paris. And it's a really unique setting. It's definitely one that I think a lot of people are going to look at and go, that's not my thing, but it is cool to see a Souls-like in a completely different style. Because like from the architecture, it's very Baroque. It's very like Gothic as well. So there are times when it very does remind me of Bloodborne in a sense that there's lots of rundown streets and, you know, carriages on fire and things. But then it's got the whole French architecture. So it's really neat in that regard. But my first impressions of the game actually weren't that great. So I started playing it, and it opens with a cutscene, and it's like the cutscene between a conversation between the Queen and her assistant, and it goes on for ages. Honestly, it's really boring. Then it introduces your character, and I'm thinking, man, that first cutscene will just push so many people away. And the first thing people are probably going to do is like skip it. So, and the thing is, it does give you context around the game, but it's like I think they really could have started way better.
Like,
and then
the
game
Queen could have been naked or something, or in a bath while she's talking to you to keep you intrigued.
Or have her tits out, like Assassin's
Creed. Exactly. At least that way
Maybe
you'd be
only at the
compelled
start
to
of the
keep
game,
watching.
not later in the
Only
game.
at the start, and then after that, it's fine. You don't need to.
Or maybe the modding community's done their bit on that part. But even the gameplay at first, I'm like, oh no, spiders, what have you done? This just doesn't feel right. Nothing felt right at the beginning. But what I realized was it was the weapon type that I came with the class I chose. I just really didn't like the moveset. And as soon as I started to get a couple more weapons, and I'm like, oh, this feels way better. And the first area is quite linear. And then after you get past those initial couple of like maybe the first hour of the game, if you don't get stuck on a boss or anything, then it really does open up, and then the game starts to shine at that point. But unfortunately, I think for some people, especially, you know, if this game ever gets added to Game Pass or anything, I think it will push them away in that first hour. So that's a bit of a shame. But past that point, I think that the game really started to click with me a lot more. It's not perfect, but there's definitely a lot to love there. So a few things. So the combat is, as I said, it's basically Souls-like. They do have some unique elements. So in general, the combat feels a little awkward, but weirdly, once you get used to it, it plays into the theme because you're a robot fighting other robots. So the fact that your character, the movement feels a bit off at first, ends up actually feeling right, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes
it's like
sense. Yeah.
weirdly... The slight jank ends up working in its favor in some regards.
Oh, would you say it's kind of like Hellpoint, where it's not quite?
Well, it's
polished?
more like, I think. Well, no, it's way more polished than Hellpoint. This
Okay.
is definitely on another level than a game like that. And I love Hellpoint. It's more that like your character movement it feels very artificial, but then it's like, wait, they are a robot.
Well, it makes
right?
sense.
So
yeah.
so it does actually, even your character Aegis like standing there in conversations, like her arm will twitch, like, and it feels weird, but it's kind of feels right at the same time. But in terms of some more unique stuff, so they've got a really neat mechanic that I didn't really use properly for first half of the game, and I regret it now, which was a cooldown mechanic. So, you know, in Souls-like, how you run out of stamina, and then it's like, oh, I can't take any action, I've got to wait for my stamina to come back a bit. What happens is if you run out of stamina in Steelrising, your robot character overheats, and you can't do anything for a while. But what you can do is you can press a cooldown button. And the cooldown button will give you stamina back, but it will cause frost damage. So it's basically okay, because it's literally cooling you down. But if you get the timing right, and it's really tough, but you can get a perfect cooldown, which instantly replenishes your stamina, and then you keep going. So once I got used to it, the whole thing is in combat, you attack, and you actually might want to use all your stamina up, perfectly time the cooldown, and then just keep attacking. And you, depending on what your stats are, you might be able to do that multiple times. So you can just keep whacking away at enemies. So it's pretty cool.
That's a cool concept. I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other cool things that, you know, I don't really have that much time to get into, but there is there's a module system where you can unlock and upgrade different modules on your, like, there's the normal stats you upgrade, but these modules are like equipable things, but you've got to upgrade, you know, your module slot to a slot 2 and 3 to upgrade, to insert the higher tier things. So there's a lot of options there. In terms of the level design, it's basically like your Soul style, but the unfortunate part is some of it's great, some of it's not so great, because these areas are pretty large, and there's so many shortcuts and there's so many back streets that you can get really lost. And I'm going to kind of break tradition here and say that this is one of the first Souls-like I've played where I think it actually should have had an area map, because there's times when I think that you can get lost quite easily. So...
Okay.
But look, it's as I went further on, they started introducing more variation in the areas. I'm like, thank God I'm not in so many city streets anymore. I'm in like a quarry and things like that. The last couple of things I'll say. So, difficulty for Souls veterans, this game is probably a bit on the easy side. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just that, this is not a hard game at all. They are actually balancing it to make it a bit more difficult because you can cheese a lot of the bosses pretty easily just by using items and abilities. But for newcomers, it's spot on. And there is actually an assist mode that you can toggle on and you can modify a few things. So for Souls like this is pretty unique. So you can like change the amount of damage you receive. You can change whether or not your souls disappear if you don't get back to your body. You can change how easy it is to get those perfect cooldowns. So the fact they've got this there is cool. But beware, if you put assist mode on, it will lock you out of a few of the more challenging difficulty achievements. So if you're a completionist, don't use the assist mode if you want to get them all, basically. But look, it's a cool game. I'm enjoying it. I think for hardcore Souls fans, I think this is definitely worth it. And for people that are a fan of like Spiders, other games, I think this is definitely going to appeal to people. For more casual Souls players and other people, I think that this is something you should probably wait to either get on cheap or all of Spider's games have basically been added to Game Pass over the years. Greedfall, Technomancer, they've all been PS Plus, things like that, Games of Gold. This game will get added to those services at some point. So I think that, for everyone else, it's worth a try when it jumps on one of those services. So, yeah, Steelrising.
Definitely keen. I'll try it.
Cool. All right, well, into our first news story of the week. Well, finally happened. Google is pulling the plug on Stadia. If anyone doesn't know, Stadia was their struggling, to say the least, game streaming platform. So they announced it back in October 2018 with the full reveal at GDC 2019 in March that year. So basically, this thing's been around for about 3 years at this point. It launched in November 2019 and never really gained much momentum. I think that even back then, we were all thinking, how long is this going to last? But basically, the Stadia general manager, Phil Harrison, released a statement on Thursday this week announcing, basically saying, a few years ago, they launched the service Stadia. While Stadia's approach to streaming games for consumers was built on a strong tech foundation, it hasn't gained the traction with users that we expected, so it made the difficult decision to begin winding down the service. So a few, I guess, nuts and bolts. Players will continue to be able to use their games until January, 18th of January next year. At that point, then they will no longer have access. And obviously, this is a streaming platform, so there's no thing, download your stuff now. It's all streaming. Google will be refunding all Stadia hardware purchases. So you didn't need to buy any hardware to use Stadia, but there was the controller package that you could purchase. So they will be refunding the purchases made through the Google Store on that, and all game and add-on content purchases through the Stadia Store. And they will repurpose the tech for other areas of the business. So, surprising news, guys?
Just on the refunds, they also said that if you've bought it from other places, that they'll work through a process of how you can get refunds for that as well. So, I think it's pretty amazing that they're refunding all hardware. So, because they're Chromecast Ultras and the controller and all game purchases, which were full price, and they're refunding it fully. So I'm like, that's pretty. Like, I'm actually shocked that they did that, but that's nice. Good. I think that's really good. Like, you have to say tick to Google for that, but you do feel bad for the devs that were working on Stadia games that they just literally found out when they publicly announced it. So
because I had no idea they were still working on the game, and then they found out.
I feel bad for them, but at the same time, if you were working on an exclusive Stadia game and you started work, let's say, in the last 6 months, I just think it was probably a bad business decision to be working on an exclusive Stadia game. That's my opinion, but it does suck for them. So,
and then there's all these great stories that are coming out. Like Kojima was pitching. He was pitching a follow-up or like an extension to Death Stranding to be on Stadia exclusively, and they said no because it's going to be single player only.
Damn.
I'm like, sorry. I'm like, what? Like, that may be one of the craziest things I've ever heard. Like, Kojima, like, such a draw. And if he made something exclusive, and he always delivers as well in terms of, like, getting it out there. Whether it's the greatest games or not, that's a question mark. But
that could have been the thing that kept it alive, right? Yeah. It's kind of ironic, I think, because if you asked me a month ago, would I have cared if Stadia didn't exist anymore? Not really. Streaming games it didn't click with me. But then I played Resident Evil Village, and I was telling you guys about it on the Switch, and it's all streamed on the Switch.
That. I don't think you did tell us.
Oh, I thought I told you guys I tried it on streaming on the Switch.
I remember him mentioning it briefly. Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay.
So it's purely streamed on the Switch. Because I went to download it, and I'm like, really? This runs on the Switch? Okay, sure. And I downloaded it almost instantly. And then I played it and I went, you know what? This is actually not bad. It runs pretty good. Pretty good. So I'm not saying I've changed my opinion on streamed games, but with a decent enough internet connection and an okay-ish Wi-Fi, I kind of see the potential there, to be honest. I really do. So it is a bit of a shame that they...
I was annoyed. Sorry, go on, Swinny.
No. I'll going on a bit of a change of direction. So you go.
I was just gonna say, like, I was annoyed because I wanted to buy the hardware because I love getting those controllers. I have so many controllers, and I'm like, this is such a unique controller because the idea of it is meant to be the controller communicates to your router. Like, I love that idea. I think that's a really clever idea. Instead of, because you already get inherent lag if the controller's going to the console and whatever, right? Or the TV, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I love the idea that it's connected directly to your router, the controller, and you could never buy it in Australia. Never launched here. So, and I was kind of pissed, to be honest, because guaranteed I would have bought it, right? And I would have got all my money back and then had the controller still. So, like, I'm kind of pissed about that. And I would have had a free Chromecast as well. Fuck.
It kind of reminds me of, so just really quick, of the Steam, the Steam Link controller.
Which came out here, yeah.
Which actually did come out here, and I did end up selling mine, I think, or getting rid of it out of returning it. I don't remember what I did with it. But I kind of regret that. Yeah, I think it had cool potential, and they probably cost a fortune now. Yeah. So it's a bit of a shame. And it was actually kind of a cool controller. Like it took some getting used to, but it was unique, very unique.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I remember when they did the whole pitch for Stadia, so that GDC presentation, the head of Google and everything presenting, and there was some stuff that they sold me on because I while I didn't think every part of it was great, but when it went from that pitch to what they actually started to launch with in almost like a soft launch in those regions that they did, it just felt like 20% not even of what they had pitched originally. And it just it feels like too soon for this whole thing because game streaming, I think, is going to be a massive part of the future. We know not every country is going to be able to get there as soon as somewhere like the US, but it's kind of, at least they gave it a shot, you know. I feel sorry for those developers, as we mentioned before, but at least the customers, they get their money back. So.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, don't forget the US, there's still a lot of rural areas in the US that they have worse internet than even Australia, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I definitely think, like, you know, South Korea, Japan, they could switch to streaming almost now. Like, I'm kind of surprised there's not more streaming in those countries. I agree. Like, I think it's way too early. But the big thing for me with streaming is, like, there is, like, I feel like no one has actually made a streaming game yet. And what I mean by that is the massive shift in the model is that you can put all the game logic centrally in the server and have, like, a world that theoretically you could have, like, 100,000 people connect to and interact with, right? Like, that is impossible to do the way we play games right now. Like, 100... you know, like Fortnite and all these things, 100 connected players is like stretching the technology to the absolute limit. But, like, I just think, like, whoever makes the first truly streaming game,
Metaverse,
it could really take off. Like, I reckon I'd be, like, super fascinated if someone was able to launch a game where there's, like, literally 100,000 people simultaneously doing stuff. Like, I just think that would be super fascinating to play something like that. So,
You know, it's probably just going to be something like a Roblox. That's what it'll be.
sure, but I don't care. Maybe Kojima, that's what he's doing with Microsoft.
Well, that's what I thought. Didn't he? Wasn't
Shiba blocks.
he? Did he said he wanted to build some sort of crazy something online
does.
something?
He does, yeah.
And he's
Well, he's working with Microsoft on something. We don't know what the nature of it is, but a cloud-based
Exactly.
game. So.
And he wanted to do stuff with Stadia, so he's got some idea in his head. So yeah, I can't wait to see a game like that. And that's the biggest shame to me, that Stadia didn't even release one single game that was unique to Stadia, really.
Yeah, there's a list out there of the games that we will essentially lose as part of this, and there's not many. I think remember that battle.
But they'll come out.
The Bomberman Battle Royale is one of them. But yeah, like they may bring those games to other platforms, but it is does really suck from not as many games, but from a preservationist standpoint. Streaming is doesn't really help with that stuff.
No. But that's like seasons, right? Like seasons in Overwatch. Like they're gone forever now. Like
Yeah.
Destiny 2, most of the Destiny 2 content you can't
the
play.
Overwatch fans.
Well, there's a lot of Overwatch fans, right?
No, just making a bad joke. But yeah, Stadia. Well, we never knew you because you never brought to Australia, so we
What's
didn't even have a chance to try.
What's Phil Harrison moving on to, right? Because he launched to PS3, which was the worst received PlayStation. Xbox One he moved to, right, for that launch, and now he's like Stadia. Like, that guy, how does he get these jobs?
Phil Harrison must be a damn good businessman behind the scenes.
He must have good knee pads.
He even worked for Gaikai at some point, which is funny.
And luscious lips.
PlayStation bought. So
It's that
All right,
smooth head.
so
That's why his head's so smooth.
with that note, we will move on to the next news story, which is Koei Tecmo and EA have revealed their big new monster hunting title called Wild Hearts. So this is a new game developed by Omega Force. They're the mob behind all the Warriors games and a bunch of others. And the game, as much as it is obviously super inspired by Monster Hunter, it's also could be considered like a pseudo continuation of their own Tokunen series. So Tokunen series were there were two games. One, I think it came out first on the Vita, I believe. I could be wrong about that. It might be PSP, but basically it was their own take on Monster Hunter, and it was also set in feudal Japan like Wild Hearts. But there were some articles that I was reading, interviews on IGN, where they're basically saying that look, they wanted to create a new IP because it would be a broader audience, and the fact that this is being published by EA means they have a chance to obviously the best chance as possible to reach a big audience with this. So, as mentioned, it's like a Monster Hunter style game. It is coming 17th of Feb 2023 for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. So it's not a last gen game at all. And the game, basically, they're touting it as a new kind of hunting game with unique crafting mechanics. And for anyone that's seen the trailer, unfortunately, we can't bring it up now, but it is basically, it does look very Monster Hunter-esque, but then they've got these really weird abilities where they're like building towers and gliding off objects and creating giant hammers for these boxes. And it's almost Fortnite-esque in some way, but it looks neat. It looks like its own a unique take on that. And will be single-player or three-player co-op with cross-play support. So, Wild Hearts, I don't know if you guys caught the trailer for this.
I did.
I did, but fuck me, I think I watched the wrong trailer.
What trailer did you watch?
I put it in the group chat.
Which
You didn't watch
chat?
Sayonara
I mean, sorry,
Wild
not in the
Hearts,
group
did
chat.
you?
I put it in the I put
secret
it in
chat?
the in the YouTube.
Oh, you
chat.
can't post links. You can't post
You can
links.
post them, you just can't.
No,
Copy.
no.
You have to.
You're not
copy
talking about
them, or-
No,
Sayonara
you
Wild
can't,
Hearts, are you?
like, you post it, you can see it, but no one else can. It's the shadow block those.
Okay, it's so if you go to YouTube and you search for our Wild Hearts,
Owl, like owl.
our Wild Hearts.
Wait, what?
Our is in
Spell it.
OUR.
Oh yeah.
OUR Wild Hearts official trailer.
How'd you find this? Like, this
Because
is a
I
movie,
searched for our
man.
Wild Hearts.
That's a movie.
I know, but clearly I
I
watched the
tapped
wrong
in.
one.
idiot.
I
You're an
tapped in
idiot. There's
Our
no
Wild
way you
Hearts
watched
and
this. There's
and
no way
I
you
did
watched
watch it. It's got
No,
horses
two-
and shit. So I'm like, okay, Monster Hunter, fair enough. I guess they're hunting horses.
Mike,
but
You're an
don't
idiot.
bullshit me. The two results underneath are bloody Wild Hearts game,
know.
even
You're
if
an
I type
idiot.
in
You're
Wild
an
Wild
idiot.
Hearts.
but I didn't type game in. I just typed in Wild Hearts
movie
official trailer.
movie trailer. No, you didn't.
Anyway, this might have some repercussions on our thumbnail this week. Anyway, let's move on.
Jesus. So Indigo, I don't know what are your thoughts? So obviously
Yeah,
you're a
like-
fan of Monster Hunter Rise, but you're new to the series. So
Yeah, for sure. Like, and I'm not like that au fait with Monster Hunter games, but I've only played Monster Hunter Rise, which I really like, and I think I will look at Monster Hunter World because I do own it. But yeah, look, it looks like Monster Hunter. I mean, like, what else can I say? Like,
It looks good though.
it looks
frickin' looks
good. There's one thing though, like, I don't know how many Monster Hunters I can have in my life, you know? Like,
it's
sometimes
like
I think with a
wives.
series, it's almost like I honestly, 3D platformers, like, I love Mario. Like, I keep banging on every time there's a Nintendo Direct. When are they going to announce the next Mario game? But if there's other 3D platformers that are really good, I'm like, I
It's
don't
called
know.
Tinykin. You should play it. Only it doesn't have Mario in
But
it.
no, my
it's
point
really
is
good.
like, I don't know. I just can't have too many of those games, right? And these games are so full on, so long. I've already got my Monster Hunter. It'd have to like blow my socks off to jump.
Well,
into
this
it.
one has
looks cool,
boxes you can stack up and then do all sorts of cool
which I hate
shit.
that shit. I hate that
out of
shit.
the
I'm glad they
boxes.
got rid of that in Fortnite.
Yeah, I did watch the trailer.
I'm glad they got
they
rid
didn't
of that
get
in
rid-
Fortnite. No
they
build.
didn't get rid of it for Fortnite.
No
They just
build.
made a new mode.
Yeah, but that's the most popular mode now. No build.
I think this
So-
is different. I think this is just a way that they
Then
try to
Fortnite no build?
incorporate
Yeah.
different powers in a concept that fits the world, I guess.
I think this
What I saw.
game looks really cool. Now, I'm definitely behind on my Monster Hunters. I do need to get to Rise at some point. But what I hope for this, and I don't know much about, I did quickly look it up, but much about the interface of the Token games, because obviously that's where they're probably going to get a lot of inspiration for things like the UI. Because with Monster Hunter, I would never say I'd want Monster Hunter to change what it does in terms of the user interface and its weird mechanics, because that's Monster Hunter. That's what the fans love. It's what the series is known for. It's being really obtuse at the start and you figure it all out. But this game would appeal to me if it's just much simpler and much just more straightforward of, hey, it's not a clunky interface, or it's not an interface you have to basically learn or take all these tutorials just to understand.
Yeah.
So I do hope it's just almost like a more streamlined version of something like Monster Hunter. So yeah. Cool. So that was Wild Hearts. Now for the next story is a big update on E3. So this week we had basically confirmation that we knew that it was coming in 2023, but it's with the amount of things that have chopped and changed with E3 in the past couple of years, it's never a certain thing at all. But now we have confirmation that they are returning to an in-person event, but there's some changes. So announced earlier this year, it's being run by a different company. Now it's still the ESA's baby because that's E3, but it's now being managed by ReedPop. So that might not be a household name for a lot of people, but ReedPop are the people behind PAX and they're behind some of the Comic-Cons. So they obviously know their stuff. And they're also... what I didn't realize is they actually own a whole bunch of websites, including Eurogamer and Digital Foundry,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
and Nintendo Life and things like
wow.
that. So, watch around E3 time, those websites just absolutely get slammed with
thought
ads and
Digital
stuff like
Foundry
that.
They
was
wouldn't do
independent.
that.
Yeah, no, Digital Foundry and Eurogamer I know have always been related, but I didn't know they're under the ReedPop banner at all. So, but yeah, so what is the show going to be like next year? So in 2023, it will be the first in-person event in 4 years. It will be running from 13th of June till 16th of June. Obviously, I don't think any of us are going to be there because it is in LA as usual, unless we want to jump on a plane.
You never know.
But it will have a new format, or like a modified format. So, for anyone who doesn't know, EA used to be a business-only event, like business attendees only, but a lot of the general public still found their way in somehow, right? Then they started introducing general public tickets, so it became more of a consumer event mixed with some of the business elements. Now they're actually kind of dividing that up a little bit. So the first 2 days will be reserved for business attendees only, where, they'll do, whatever meetings they need to do, whatever like hands-on
Secret
impressions.
handshakes.
The third day will be a mix of the two, and then the last day will be consumers only. So that will be probably the big day that, everyone from the public will go.
Consumers. Is that what we are now? Consumers.
And the layout will reflect that as well, the actual physical layout of the expo. So I think it's a good move to split it up. I don't know how you guys feel.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a bit like Comic-Con, right? Like that was actually a proper con originally. Now it's an opportunity to monetize people that come in and like make a shit ton of money. So I get it, like perfectly from a business point of view, makes perfect sense. For whatever reason, like E3 is just got a cachet in the gamer culture, right? Like no matter what Jeff Keighley tries to do to like get Summer Games Fest off the ground, in my view, that hasn't landed in my head. You know what I mean? And I feel like
something about it I just don't like.
yeah, it's not cohesive enough for me. It's too all over the place.
It's too trying to be the fucking a copy of the I don't know, Oscars or something for gaming, and I just fucking hate
that's Game Awards. That's Game Awards. It's the Summer Games Fest.
Yeah, I like the Game Awards.
I
love
hate
that.
the Summer Games Fest. I hate the Summer Games Fest. You're right. That is more okay. But the Game Awards and stuff, I just hate that format for some reason.
We're not talking about the Game Awards, but
Anyway,
but no, I don't like Summer
E3
Games Fest.
Felt
'cause
more genuine. I don't know why.
well, I don't know if it felt ever genuine for me, but
I don't know, just more like I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I really can't. I can't rationalize it if that makes sense. It's just like
I don't know why you're trying to rationalize, but look, like I think it's got a good cachet. It makes sense. You know, people are gonna look forward to it. It just needs good support, I think, from the three major platforms, because it feels like they're all pulling away from it. Remember, like you could argue, oh, the pandemic's changed it, but even the year before the pandemic, Sony was pulling out of E3, and then Nintendo's already pretty much pulled out of it. So I don't know, man. Like it's gonna be interesting to see how it goes in 2023.
Yeah, the fact that it's got the people behind PAX on this means that I've got a lot more confidence than I've ever had in E3. Now, PAX is very much a consumer show, and it's got a lot more indie representation in the show floor and whatnot than E3 ever had. But I think that they will probably start to meld that in a bit more. You know, obviously PAX has its identity, E3 has its identity, but they've also talked about the fact that they do want to build stronger relationships with the adjacent events that aren't officially part of the calendar. Now, they've kind of done that in the past, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is a bit more of a relationship between Jeff Keighley and his Summer Games Fest and this. Then that I think was not a chance before, but I think that there's more of a chance that he might start to kind of, because he was already spooking the E3 press conferences last year when he was doing, or this year I should say, when doing Summer Games Fest. But now he might not get a slap on the hand for doing it this year, So
well, he used to produce it. He used to produce the main day or whatever. So I think he'd go back to that if it has momentum. Like I don't think he's like. I think he's of the mentality from a business sense, try to lift everything up. All rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing. So, but yeah.
But I'm just excited for the
ones.
I'm just excited if this means E3 gets another lease of life, because it was really on its deathbed for a few years there.
Yeah.
So this is really, really good news to me. So.
Same, and I like those events. I can kind of see though from a company like Microsoft, Sony going, holy shit, how many things are in the calendar now that we have to prepare things for, announce things for, etc. It can probably also get a bit tiring. It used to be so much more simpler, I think. And now there's a lot of things that they have to do it for. So I can see why they're just being a bit more picky.
Yeah, I just, the biggest thing I liked about E3 is like when there's just like a shit ton of news all at once. Like that's cool. And that's what I like about the Game Awards, because it's like, okay, just a concentrated burst. It's like, okay, just watch this one thing. And then also the cringe stage presentations. I hope that comes back. Like that shit is up my alley. Like if the cringe comes back and they're all rusty because they haven't done face-to-face stuff, that's going to be awesome. Or actually make it hybrid. It's even worse. It's even more complicated. So that's even better.
It's interesting that, I mean, I guess it makes sense that they're going back to being in person again. I don't know about you guys, but I went to a regional town and they had a market, and man, it felt like the pandemic is just long gone. It's like no one even remembers it anymore. Fully packed, no one like just mingling.
This name of this place,
it's interesting.
Regional Town, is it also appear in Various Day Life, the video game?
Mike probably did watch the entire Nintendo Direct. The Nintendo Direct.
I did not.
It's like a double whoosh. It's a double whoosh.
Yeah. No double whoosh. All right, cool. So the last bit of news for this week is It's a bit of a chonker in terms of the,
Just like
I
me.
guess the talking points.
Little Mike.
Thank you, Mike, for that.
Chunker, no, isn't I've gained heaps of weight thanks to the pandemic.
Oh,
Right,
I
Mike,
thought that's why you
Mike.
call you business.
Oh, no. 5 inches,
So-
but it's thick.
It's a bit of a weird story
Okay.
because it's not, on the surface, it's not the most newsworthy thing, but to me, I think that it has a lot of potential impact and a lot of, I guess, the change of the industry, if this happens, could be pretty big. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that the Saudi Arabia's Savvy Games Group are in the market to buy a leading game publisher. That's their own words, leading game publisher. Now, the Savvy Games Group is owned by Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, set up by Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Now, that fund is the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world with total estimated assets of $620 billion US dollars.
Ay, caramba.
And it's obviously not just related to video games. There's a whole bunch of ventures there, but I'll get into what they've announced in terms of the new spending they're going to do on the video game side. But the moves they've made so far in the video game industry, we've covered some of these in passing throughout the episodes because some of these date back to 2020. So in 2020, they acquired a third of Japanese developer SNK as part of their subsidiary called Electronic Game Development Company. And then in Feb this year, they increased the stake to 96% ownership. So they own SNK, basically. So that was one of the first major moves they made, that 3% of SNK. Now, in 2021, the fund purchased stakes in EA and Take-Two Interactive and Activision Blizzard. So they basically just started, obviously, spreading some of their fingers out in the different big publishers. And probably the biggest ones to me are this year they actually purchased a 5% stake in Nintendo, which we did talk about in the show, and an 8% stake in Embracer Group a month later for $1 billion. So that was around the same time that Embracer Group was purchasing a whole bunch of stuff themselves. So they obviously had that influx of funds coming from there as well. So what does this mean for this week? Why is this newsworthy now? So according to Saudi State News, the group will invest a further $37.8 billion US dollars in games industry acquisitions. So they've broken it down a little bit. So $13 billion will to acquire a leading game publisher that I said, and they use the term publisher, not developer. $18 billion will be used for minority stake investments in key companies that support their game development agenda. $5 billion will go to mature industry partners who add value and expertise to Savvy's portfolio. That's such an ambiguous statement, that one. And $500 million will go to industry disruptors and esports companies. So they've outlined that stuff, but
Wait,
of course
industry
the big,
disruptors and esports companies bucketed into one. Okay.
well, I mean, like industry disruptors,
NFT,
obviously.
NFT stuff they want to say,
It's
but
a
they
whole
don't want
bunch
to
of
say
stuff,
NFT.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
Well, they
yeah.
don't want to say it because they know the hate they'll get.
Yep.
So we'll come back to the leading game publisher part, but I just want to say that it's all part of their Vision 2030, not 3030 policy. That'd be a long to policy, that one. 2030 policy, which basically they want to have a global game studio in Saudi Arabia releasing 30. They put competitive games. I'm like, what does competitive games mean? And 250 game companies operating within the country by 2030. So they're going all in on this stuff, and it's the Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, is actually the chairman of the Savvy Games Group. So he's obviously pretty hands-on with this stuff. But it's really weird to me because there's also like I follow a lot of wrestling, and they're spending a lot of money on the wrestling side as well, and it's kind of wild what's happening there. But so what do you guys think about this? They're them stating they want to purchase a leading game publisher.
Well, I think number one, it makes perfect sense why the Saudi dictatorship want to diversify their portfolio, because it's like fossil fuels is almost everything. And if you actually look at all their acquisitions, it's almost like completely opposite from a market dynamics, right? Like gaming, wrestling, entertainment. It's got nothing to do with, mining and things of that nature. So that makes perfect sense. Like I honestly, like, I don't think I can buy any SNK games anymore. Like, I struggle even with like Chinese stuff, but the Saudis are another level altogether, man. And it's not the people. I actually know people from Saudi Arabia, but it's got nothing to do with the people. It's just the government, right? And look, the Middle East is full of dictatorships, but it's crazy over there. Like the lack of rights for people, like insane. And I find it really hard to watch stuff like the F1 when it's in Saudi Arabia because I'm like, this is so effed up. Like even the race this year, they actually had bombing that was like 10 kilometers away from the track, and they go, oh, there's no risk to the F1 race. They weren't targeting in the race, they're targeting Aramco. And I'm like, well, the race is sponsored by Aramco. It's like, wouldn't that be a good target? But yeah, so look, I understand why they're doing it. This makes me feel like sick though, because if they actually buy a huge studio that I love, like a Capcom or something like that, oh, like,
Boycott the studio.
and I'm not big on boycotts. It's just like normally it's like, look, I don't need to get a new Metal Slug game, right? Like Metal Slug
Yeah.
Tactics, right? I was interested in that, and then I was like, no, I'm not interested in it anymore. But I've got replacements, so it's quite easy to do that. But something like Capcom, it's like I'm really looking forward to Street Fighter 6, and it's like, whoa. So, but do you want to go through the list really quickly of some of the
Well, look,
studios or publishers?
I just had a look at some of the leading game publishers. I didn't include anything about like Sony, Microsoft, so I didn't also include Activision Blizzard as part of that, assuming that's under the Microsoft banner when all that wraps up. And there's definitely some in this list that are not going to be on the potential block. But in terms of the publishers that are out there, so in the US we've got EA, we've got Take-Two, we've got Valve, we've got smaller ones like Devolver, Annapurna, Axis, W Games, which is a bit of a weird one. Obviously, that's a bigger company behind it. But so, and there's more, but they're kind of like the ones in the US that I kind of just when I was looking through, I'm like, well, what's out there?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be those first two. EA
The first two,
too
it's
big.
impossible. Like based on
Yeah.
the numbers that they're saying.
But EA
Valve's
makes
weird.
perfect sense.
Well, they're way too big. They'd be like,
I know.
Yeah,
But it makes so much sense.
yeah. Well, then I would have to not worry about any of those EA games. I think Valve is very hard to value, and they're not really like fully publicly listed, so they're hard to say. WB is like super logical, right?
It is. I definitely don't think someone like Devolver or Annapurna. I don't know how the business world works with like hostile takeovers and things, but I think ethically they're very different companies than some of the bigger boys. So I can't see them coming to.
But it's not a hostile takeover. They just will go.
No,
hey,
I'm just. No, I was just saying, like, I don't know how it works with, I want to buy this company in terms of getting the shares and stuff. It's more just, I just don't think that would be even in consideration. So,
But they could. Why can't they? If they're publicly listed, of course they can.
well, that's what I was saying. I'm not sure about the whole surrounding that because I'm not the smartest person when it comes to business acquisitions and shares and stakes and all this crap. But in terms of Europe, because I don't think that any of the US makes sense, in my opinion, I think Europe has a lot more options. So
Smorgasbord of options in Europe.
Ubisoft's kind of tied up with Tencent at the moment. I think that if anyone's going to buy Ubisoft, it'll eventually be Tencent.
Maybe.
But we've got Embracer Group. So I mentioned at the top that Embracer Group are pretty massive now. That they already own 8% of them, or they've got 8% of the stake in that. So Embracer Group's definitely potential. You got Nacon, who published Steelrising that I was talking about earlier. Focus Home Interactive, 505 Games. They publish Control, a whole bunch of other stuff. Paradox Interactive, and you got Team 17 as well. So a lot more there. Now, your consideration of a leading game publisher could be very different, between everyone, but. A lot of them, they're publishing a lot of games, so I don't know what their market value is like, though.
Yeah, and when they say 13 billion, like, to put it in perspective, Ubisoft really wouldn't, even based on the current, like, minority stakes that people have bought in them, they'd be worth, like, 8 billion, 10 billion. So it's bigger than Ubisoft. Like, that puts it in perspective. It's like all the ones that you said, it actually, like, none of them actually big enough to argue for that number.
I don't know. I wonder what
But they don't
Embracer
have to
Group is
spend
like, though.
that amount. They can spend less. They could get a deal.
Net income for Embracer Group is terrible. Like,
okay.
yeah. So they have a lot of studios and they have a lot of equity and all this other stuff, but their revenue is actually really poor. Like, sorry, so the income is really poor.
Now that 13 billion is obviously not. It has to be 13 billion, though. You know, like they could also be.
Sure.
They could make a bunch of stuff, but the fact that they've already bought into them in a decent capacity is why Embracer, to me, is one of the more likelies. In terms of Japan, and I'll split out Japan and Asia because they're kind of very different in the video game industry. Nintendo, Bandai Namco, Konami, Sega, and Capcom are the ones that... There's more, but they're kind of the big names. And these are the ones that you're like, oh man, like this would hurt if they bought... Like Sega, for instance, I don't know what Sega's valued at, but I could see that, you know, I really could see that.
That new Hedgehog game looks sick. So,
but I think what's really critical to understand here is that you got to understand the country's laws and the way they're structured. So I don't think they can buy these companies outright because this is what they're talking about, that they're buying it completely. There's very strict laws in Japan about how you acquire Japanese companies, like in full. And there's a reason why it just doesn't happen at all, like outside of like mergers between, Japanese entities.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. Look, surely is it not the same approach that they did with SNK? Now I know it's a different scale, but that's a Japanese company.
Yeah, I wonder how they bought them out. That's a good point.
Now they have 96% ownership.
Yeah,
so I don't
that's
know
a really
if
good point.
But
It's just
even
I know that it's very
basically
uncommon.
full ownership at that point.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Yeah,
I have some thoughts while you guys are thinking about that. And look, you guys think I'm going to joke around this, but I'm not kidding at all. So first of all, it makes perfect sense, as integot said. I mean, the oil's eventually going to run out. You need to diversify. You need to go into things that make money. And what makes a lot of money? Video games, especially specific video games by specific publishers. So I think that's a no-brainer. You know, it's just one other thing. And I think someone in our chat, so Fale, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, also said that they own a whole bunch of stuff. So they own soccer clubs, as an example, Newcastle United, and it makes sense.
And he's Saudi as well.
Yeah. And I was
already-
it's perfect timing.
Position.
There was already a lot of notes in the run sheet. I decided not to include everything else I own. Yeah, I know.
So no, I'm not going to go through the whole list. But what I think I hate out of sheer principle more than anything in a way is games began as a fairly humble industry where people literally made them in garages. It was a bunch of people getting together, sharing their passion, creating these cool things to share with the world. Naturally, like with anything, it went bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually, like with anything, it gets run over by corporations. Faceless people in the end who don't really give a fuck or have a particular passion for something. They're just after the money. And it was interesting. I was listening to a song today. I have no idea. I just randomly came up on a playlist, and it's a country song about a guy who talks about his farm and how he says sorry to his son that he can't pass anything on to him because he can't make ends meet anymore because the bank needs to take the farm because they wouldn't be able to pay the payments, and the guy at the farm goes, sorry, I'm just doing my job. Anyway, so this idea that, we're becoming slaves to these corporations, which is basically what Cyberpunk is, right?
But I mean,
this just grinds my gears, man.
That's not specific to the video game world. That's
no,
just,
I know it's not specific to the video games
that's
world, but I'm
consumer
not
goods,
passionate.
that's
I don't give a
everything.
shit if they go and buy something else. I am passionate about video gaming, and I'm passionate about an industry that began as a humble thing, and that still to this day has a lot of people who are really passionate about the field. You don't get, I mean, I know you're passionate to go into biomedicine or something. You're passionate to go into those kind of things. But gaming was always a different thing. It was supposed to be an enjoyable experience. It's not. It's a business now. And it fucking shits me.
Of course it's
I
a
know
business.
I know what you're saying, Mike, but I think that it's so far gone at that point. Outside of indie developers and some indie publishers, that you should be pissed off about the majority of companies that are making video games these days. But in terms of, I was just going to close off the ones that we did mention. I just want to, just before we get stuck there.
Well, I did have something.
I just want to
that was
mention
to Mike what he was saying before we went.
Okay, no, go. All right, go.
I was just going to say, like, but the only thing, Mike, is that, you know, the system that you're talking about just doesn't work, right? Like, you haven't had an example with Disco Elysium, right? So that's made by, what is it, ZA/UM, right? And they have some kind of communist, you know, collective, the way they create their games. But they actually got taken over because they didn't structure the entity correctly. So these people that I shouldn't laugh because it's a bad story, but this is only breaking today that the people who actually were the creative force behind Disco Elysium, like, have been basically screwed by some early investors that were able to manipulate their company and take it over, right?
No.
But I'm just saying,
Wow.
like, that's just the nature of it. Like, that's a system that we exist in.
Yeah, but I don't
currently,
accept
right?
it. Yeah, it's a system in the nature, but it doesn't mean you have to accept it. I fucking hate it, and I hate it with a passion. I don't accept it, and the only way I can deal with it is, like you said, just boycott and not
Yeah,
buy
I
into
agree
some
with
of those
that.
companies.
You have
Buy
the-
more
you
indie
have the
games.
choice to
Do
do
that.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have the
for sure.
choice to do that, and
All right,
it's
can we-
exactly the choice that I will.
Let's loop back
take.
around, right? Because otherwise it's going to take forever. So, of the Japanese companies, is there any that you guys think that is likely that they could take out?
Capcom.
Well, I think Nintendo's impossible because it's way too big. But I think the other ones are all like, I think Capcom, dude, like, it makes me
Yep.
sick. The one that you haven't listed here is Square Enix. And
Yeah, that's-
they're
That makes perfect
actually
sense as
like,
well.
they are like
Yeah.
almost more perfect because they've gotten rid of
NFTs,
some
baby.
No, but they've gotten rid of some of the other like edgy parts of their business. So they've cleaned
Yeah.
up their business. They're almost like wanting to be acquired. It's kind of crazy. Like, that would make me sick if it's like Capcom or Bandai Namco or Konami. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really know what it would be, but maybe that actually makes sense. Like, if they tried to cut off their business, like their video game part, I couldn't imagine like everything going there, because you know how they've got their big gambling pachinko machine business. Like, that's
Yeah,
bigger than, you know, the video game part of their
But at the
business.
same time, it's what you'd go for because it's a cash cow.
I don't know. If I, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what the strategy of the Saudi fund is.
I've no idea how gambling plays into that as well. Like, gambling is a very ethical thing, and there's different laws in
Yeah.
different countries that could
Yeah, they're
impact
really
the-
ethical, the Saudis.
Yeah, it's
The,
super
No,
ethical.
the
no, but-
dictatorship,
no.
I should say, not the people.
No, what I'm saying is that, look, when you bring gambling to the mix, it's a whole different playing field than the video games. So, but yeah, look, Square Enix, I guess I've neglected to put them on there. I think that, I don't know what Bandai Namco's like net worth is at the moment, but you know, they release so many bloody games.
Yeah.
So it's wild. I would absolutely hate if they picked them up. So,
But once you talk about 13 billion, you're literally only cutting off Activision, Blizzard, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, Take-Two, maybe Valve. I'm not that familiar. And then I think everything else is actually fair game. I think like literally everything else, because that's all. By the way, $13 billion is a shitload of money. Like, the company I work at is like not even worth that much, and it makes a bucket
Chump
ton
change
of
for them
money.
though.
Yeah, I know.
A couple more barrels here and there.
And also, by the way,
Um,
Swinny, correction, it's not the biggest sovereign wealth fund. Bizarrely enough, the biggest sovereign wealth fund is the Norway sovereign wealth fund, which is so
okay.
crazy. 5.5 million people, and it's $1.2 trillion of assets. Like, it's crazy.
Interesting.
Because people don't know, like, Norway has so much oil. Like, they have the biggest, like, social, what's it called, catchment, where, like, that's the best country to be born in, Norway. Like, you'll never be poor there.
Well, wherever I picked that quote up, obviously they were ill informed, but I decided to regurgitate that, so that's on me.
Hey,
Yeah,
one
look-
quick thing. Sorry, no, you go, Swinny.
No, I was going to say, look, as you said, you know, like, there is a clear, I think, you got to really separate the people versus the government and everything there. But it is unfortunately the government that's involved in this fund, and you know, the guy at the top essentially is the
Directly.
guy at the top of this as well, and so you can't unfortunately separate that opinion from this thing we love, these video games. You know, at least us two. Mike's waving here and there between his love based on this stuff, but it does really suck if it does impact the games we love in a negative way. But look, a lot of it will be wait and see with that. Unfortunately, even if they make the purchase, we might not see any negative repercussions for a long time as well.
Well, it would be hilarious in a sick way if they did buy Nintendo. It would be the greatest challenge in my life. I must admit, look, and you just to reiterate it, I know you just said it. This has got nothing to do with the Saudi people at all. Like I said, I've known people from Saudi Arabia. There's zero issues, right? It's the dictatorship there, right? It's brutal. It's literally supporting that dictator. Like, I just double checked it all because it is true that you can buy Japanese companies. It's been liberalized a lot in the last 10 years, and the actual company that acquired it is literally the Prince Mohammed bin Salman Foundation. Like, it's not like in the name of the Saudi people or anything. It's like fucking for him personally. Like, he's probably the richest person, maybe Putin, but maybe he's the second richest person on earth, right? And I really find it hard to... Maybe he'll buy Collingwood Football Club as well, just to really fuck me up. I say this seriously, though. I would seriously think about not supporting them. Like, that's how much I dislike this dictatorship. But anyway.
Again, we're on the same wavelength in terms of whether would you support something out of principle or not. But at the same time, I think of a company like BioWare. The BioWare that used to be BioWare isn't BioWare anymore. And do I care that they've been taken over or that I'm never going to get another Mass Effect game? Honestly, not really. Like, those are great games. I enjoyed them in that period of my life. It was fantastic. I don't give a shit if there's not going to be another Mass Effect game coming out. And it's the same with all of these. If a company gets taken over and I'm not going to get a sequel or something, tough shit. Water under the bridge. Move on to something else.
Well, Mike, I think you forget there is another Mass Effect game coming
out.
It's officially announced.
No, I know that.
We will see.
What I'm saying is,
I'm
not going to lose sleep over them taking over my favorite company. Fuck it. This is heaps of other games out there that I can play instead.
The thing is, Mike, what if they take something over and they make good games? Like, that's actually the challenge.
Oh, that would be the worst part.
That's what I'm saying. That's the challenge. It's like, I think with SNK, they're not going to F around with it. They're just going to buy it. It's very similar to like the Chinese, controlled entities. They buy it and just let people do what they want. So that's the challenge. So,
that's as I said, it was a bit of a chonker of a one that I think has the most potential impact out of. Like, Stadia shutting down sucks, but man, like, this potentially could impact the industry massively. So. All right, well, let's quickly wrap up the news and some of the headlines we want to talk about in the big sizzler. So we've got a bunch of headlines here. We skipped it last week because it was just there was a lot to talk about. But boys, is there anything on the list here that you wouldn't mind just quickly talking about?
Cyberpunk 2077 has cleared 20 million sales. CD Projekt Red claimed on Wednesday, out of which probably about half were purchased by me. So... pretty good.
I wonder, some people have been talking about this as well, is like, does that include anything they actually refunded? Or is that just like the initial numbers, I don't know. So I don't know how many
they'll net it off. I don't think they had that many refunds, by the way.
Yeah, I don't. It wouldn't make it that much of a dent, but yeah. Look, we mentioned the other couple of shows back. We're like, do we think that game will have its No Man's Sky kind of redemption moment? I still don't think it will happen, but there's been a lot of there has been a big turnaround in the last month or so, off the back of the Edge Runners and all that stuff. So
yeah, I was thinking that too. Maybe it will have a little bit of a comeback, but I don't think it's going to have that. Yeah.
Well, no, it's definitely made a comeback. It's like hitting massive highs on Steam. Like, it actually is like smashed it on Steam. I think it's like massive concurrence, like almost like similar to launch. So
it's higher than.
I agree with what you're saying though, Swinny. I don't think it will ever have a redemption story. I think the only way it would happen is literally it would be like Cyberpunk 2099 or something like that, and it's a great game. Like, that's the only way I could see it redeemed.
Yeah. Because the redemption is more about the general consensus opinion on did they turn it around, and that is still definitely not the case. So
but that's why
as much as I love the game,
if they did the DLC for free as a goodwill gesture, and I know that I don't know their numbers and stuff, but hey, you just sold 20 million copies of this apparently. Well, maybe you can afford to just do it as a goodwill gesture and just forget about it until your next game. that I reckon might have actually, people would have gone, hey, this is fucking cool. This is really good. Because I think that was part of what made No Man's Sky what it was, that they kept pumping all those updates out for free. And then people went,
That's
well,
true.
okay, how can I be mad? How can I be angry at these people? They're fucking giving me all this free shit now and improving it and making it what it's supposed to be. They're straight true to, they just fucked up, basically. But with these guys, ooh, I think they shot themselves in the foot for not doing that. But anyway.
Yeah, but
I just hope my collector's edition is going to be worth more than what I paid for it, which I doubt.
never, no way, zero
Probably
chance.
not. Hey, maybe in like 10 years, maybe in 10 years' time, who the fuck knows?
Yeah, CD Projekt Red seemed to be a company that doesn't care about money in terms of releasing on a console that never should have been released on. Even though they tested it, it was perfectly fine. Like, it worked for them. So.
Well, you know what? We have jobs where you have to release, and we've talked about this in the past. We have to release a particular thing.
Dude, I'm going through that now.
And you go to management and you go, it doesn't fucking make any sense to be releasing this thing, right? Like, it makes zero fucking sense.
Yeah.
They, in all their knowledge, don't give a shit about what you have to say. They go ahead and fucking do it, and it makes zero fucking sense. And then it doesn't get used, or it's got all these issues, or if customers fucking hate it, and, well, too bad.
Dude, I can't say, I genuinely can't say too much. I'm going through that at the moment. But again, it does go to the senior levels of leadership. And just like Cyberpunk, like, they literally needed to make a call and say, fuck, like, it's gonna suck. We need to rip the Band-Aid off and say, this is not coming out for PS4 and Xbox One, right? And they didn't do it. Like,
and they get paid obscene amounts of money to make the right decision. And
I think that's fine. Like, they stuffed up.
I don't
and
think
they
it's fine. I think it's
I'm
fucking
saying
bullshit.
it is what it is. They need to be held over the coals for it and not forgiven for it. Like,
but they won't. They'll just get a bonus and move on with their lives.
It's not listed here, Swinny, but Analog Pocket, the crazy AGG 23 person, released the NES core this week.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah, right?
Why did we do a story about it?
I couldn't be bothered adding the details. But,
well, I don't know if you guys read in the chat in the
I did. I saw it.
They were asking about, like, when we're not covering analog this week.
So I was actually playing it, and I'm like, it's so. I was just trying to find my pocket on my desk, but it must be my bag, my work bag.
Is it in your pocket?
No, it's not. Yeah, it's really awesome. Like, I actually played through half of Super Mario Brothers 3, flawless. For some reason, like, the NES core just is like, it looks so freaking crazy on the Pocket. Like, it looks freaking amazing, man.
Does it look like what you remember Mario looking like as a kid?
No,
you know what I mean?
no,
When
not
you
at
play
all.
a game and you're like, oh yeah, that's wow, I totally have different memories of what that game used to look like.
I never feel like that.
But now it kind of looks like the game that you remember it looking like.
It's just like the opposite.
I only have that issue of N64 games. The others are fine.
PlayStation N64 is rough. But I think when you play them on a CRT, it's like rough, but not as bad as when you play it on like a PC and it's upscaled and looks terrible. No, it's friggin' awesome. The thing that I was really excited about, and I like reached out to the guy, Adam, is because, I said this last week, Swinny, that the way I use the Pocket, it's like the Switch. I need to be able to turn it off quickly and put it on and off because the kids and everything like that, or going on public transport or whatever, right? Now, the Steam Deck does that. Like, that's a big thing that Valve did, where you can just press the power button, start playing the game, press it, and it just freezes the game, right? That doesn't work for, like, the SNES core, the NES core, all of that kind of stuff, right? It does work for the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance cores, right? So I play those games. But they actually did say, and I said it could take a year or two, or however long to get that stuff, maybe never, right? They did say in the post when they released the NES core that save states are coming, which means that you can sleep and bring it back up. And I'm like, damn, that is like the biggest game changer for me.
Ye of little faith.
I know.
No, but
Well,
it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work to get it working.
Imagine.
Like,
But how does it work? How does it work with emulation? I mean, just at a simplistic level, being able to save the states like that.
because it's a
that different?
software platform, it's much simpler to just actually
Okay, just
freeze
dump
the
the-
memory dump, right?
Right.
It's not a memory dump for the FPGA stuff. It's actually like you got to think of it almost like, what's the state of all the registers and all like with the CPU instruction like that it's about to send, and like it's quite complex actually. It's the downside of hardware emulation. So yeah, I'm like super pumped, man. Like when I saw that, I do wonder maybe the Mr. NES core has save states. So maybe that's why it's a lot easier to transfer over. Whereas I don't know if the SNES one has save states. So yeah, like look, it's awesome, man. The Analog Pocket is the perfect like device for retro gaming. Like there's nothing better than it. It's like even my mate, like as I said, who came up, and he's more of like the mic ilk, like, you know, Android handhelds and all that kind of stuff. Even he was playing it and was like, damn, this is pretty cool, actually. Like, he was actually a little bit converted by it. So I was like, damn, that just shows how good it is, actually. So, yeah, I'm pumped for it, man.
One of the headlines of the week that not many people talked about, because I understand why, is Crystal Dynamics have actually put out a consumer survey about Legacy of Kain. So Legacy of Kain is a series that's been dormant for so long. We know that was part of the package that came over with Crystal Dynamics to Embracer Group. So Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, but Legacy of Kain is a series that so many people have wanted to come back. And I filled out the consumer survey. It's pretty funny, like, just to some of the questions they ask are like,
what would they ask?
would you want a remaster? Would you want a sequel? Would you want a remake and all this stuff? But it's cool. I like that they're putting the feelers out to get an idea to obviously then hopefully somebody puts a business case together to do something with Legacy of Kain.
I think it's a good approach, to be honest. It's like, hey, do people want this or not? And I've been seeing things about it on Reddit and stuff like that, and I think there's definitely an appetite. So there were cool games back in the day.
Soul Reaver especially. I love Soul
Yeah,
Reaver,
yeah.
so.
It's freaking awesome games. A couple of things. Skull and Bones delayed. Didn't see that one coming. Apparently delayed because gameplay sucks or something. It's not great. What were people saying?
I don't think they officially said what the reason is, but to me the most obvious reason is the fact that it was coming out like the day before God of War. So honestly, I think this is a good move for them to delay it. So
it's not free to play. You have to pay for it. So
it's funny. I was reading like some comments. People are like, "Oh, don't worry, the game's free to play anyway." Like, there's so many people out there that
that's what I'm saying,
it's free to play.
Dude. But that's what I'm saying. I know you don't listen about it or like you don't agree, but this game they cannot make it. They cannot ask people to pay money for it. They're insane.
I never said either way. I just said it's not a free-to-play game.
It's not, and I know that, and I bring up every time that it's not a free-to-play game and it's going to die. But March is pretty busy as well, I think. So, yeah, I think there's some announced games for March.
I feel like it might have just been COVID delays.
No, dude, guarantee it's moved partly because of Ragnarok. There's no way you go up against Ragnarok.
But it's a different kind of game. I wouldn't really... Yeah, okay.
Ragnarok...
But every month there's going to be something to go up against. It's probably going to be better than that anyway. So
Ragnarok's like Elden Ring. You're foolish to go next to it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like Guerrilla Games constantly going up against
that's true.
genre-defining games, idiots.
But onto some opposite news, which is good, I think. Scorn is coming out, a week early on Game Pass?
I put that in for you, Mike.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that. Like,
there you go.
We've talked about it before. I love the aesthetic. It's weird. It's creepy. I think people shouldn't expect a first-person shooter kind of thing because it clearly isn't that. It's not giving me those vibes at all. So that's cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, the other one that they needed to avoid was Sonic Frontiers. That's coming out on the day that Skull and Bones is
Sonic Frontiers.
Skull and Bones
Frontiers is actually... Sonic Frontiers has actually been getting a lot more positive buzz than people think recently.
It's still
that's true. That's true.
No, like there's a lot of positive impressions and review previews out there about it. So I think people will be surprised. It'll still just be another Sonic game, but it's not going to be the disaster people are expecting. So
I'm ordering from the secret menu, which is like stuff that's not on this list here on this big system.
Right.
You always do it.
Talk about whatever. Sure, cool. Go.
This is what this is like. This is a
you can do
random segment anyway.
I'm not stopping you from doing it. I just find it funny.
This is like Barry shit at the end of the thing. So Overwatch 2. Any chance you're going to play that, Mike? It's free to play. It is actually
Zero.
Free to play. Oh, 0. Okay.
I don't play those games anymore.
Swinny?
Sorry.
I never played number 1, so very unlikely.
Okay. It's coming out in a couple of days.
As much as I know it's a decent game, or good game, I should say.
I might try it. Might try it. Free to play.
I just don't want to get hooked on that stuff. You know me.
No, of course not.
Addictive personality.
Who would want to play games?
the last
No,
one
no, I want to
that
play
I'll-
games. I
I
just want to
want-
play all sorts of different games, not just the same game over and over and over again for.
The last
Could argue it's
head-
all the same. It's all the same.
No, it's not.
The last headline I want to talk about, I have to really shut you down there, is the fact that Beyond Good and Evil 2, from official announcement to release date, has now officially been in development longer than Duke Nukem Forever, which
Wow.
is...
How many
That's an achievement,
How many years?
Ubisoft.
It
That's an
is.
achievement.
How long has it
Jesus
been?
Christ. Well, I mean, I think it was 2008, I think was the official reveal trailer.
Wow.
Of what?
Beyond Good and Evil.
Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Oh,
I
okay.
was talking about it already. So
No. I was
yes.
just thinking about Duke Nukem Forever. I thought it was a reference to that.
No, yeah, Beyond Good and Evil 2 was so that's they're obviously, I don't think the game's gonna get canned, but man, what, like, when Skull and Bones looks better in terms of timeline than your game, that's not good. So, and it's a shame. I love the original, but whatever. I like.
It'll come out when
Yeah.
it'll come out.
So do you think episode 3 counts? Or is that like officially cancelled? Half-Life episode 3. Is that officially cancelled?
Was it ever official? No.
It was officially announced.
Yeah. Look, if they turn around and then like announce it again, then maybe you could continue that. But it's also like, I think it's a bit of a different situation, that one. But
Could they release Half-Life 3 like without Half-Life 2 episode 3? Wouldn't that piss people off?
Well, I
Probably
think that
not,
would be the
actually.
next. I actually think that's what they would do. Is they would just put Half-Life 3 out. So
Oh, you reckon just Half-Life 3? Okay.
It should have
Yeah,
just called
yeah, I
Alex episode 3. Oh.
I don't think they ever will. I think even if they make a mainline Half-Life game, they won't call it Half-Life 3 out of spite. Like, you know what I mean? Like Half-Life Resurrected or some shit just to piss people off.
yeah. But
No,
anything
because I was
else,
just
guys,
looking
you
at the
wanna cover?
longest vaporware games, and you're right. Like Duke Nukem Forever is like the record. So
There's-
this
look,
would be
there's
the new
also-
record if this comes
the
out
record,
next
yeah.
year.
There might be also some game that somebody's been working on that officially announced it back in 2000 and might put it out next year. Like, it's more like, okay, these are actually like, like a big titles kind of stuff.
But
know?
but I'm not talking about early access, right? Like these are like the games that have been announced and they haven't come out. Because I think
yeah.
Dwarf Fortress would be the longest running thing. Because that
But I mean, that game's been out in different capacities.
not 1.0. They're still in early
Yeah,
access
no. Early access doesn't count.
since
I know.
2006.
What?
Yeah, two brothers. It's quite cool. You should check that game out.
I feel
Mike.
like
You'd
at that
it.
point, it's never going to come out.
And it's a
Well,
bit of a
what's the
joke,
point?
I think, that it's not 1.0.
Cool. Anything else?
I'm actually looking forward to seeing what the hell this PlayStation Stars rewards program is going to look like.
Yeah, so it launches 13th of October in Australia and Europe. And
Yeah, but
coming
it's already
sooner
launched.
in other areas.
In Japan, right? And I haven't really heard
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, on the 29th comes out in 3 days in the Americas. Yeah, so I haven't delved that deep into it because it's not something I'd probably use, but it seems like an interesting thing. I know Mike's obviously probably, I'm going to stop Mike from going on a tirade about loyalty
Well, listen to me.
programs.
I'm not going to say anything.
So,
Hey, it's cool for people
once,
that are into
for
that
once.
shit.
But I'm just happy that there's no NFTs involved. That is a good part.
But they're kind of like, they're collectibles, yeah? It's just not
Yeah,
unique
but
collectibles.
no.
What?
There's just not. There's no blockchain
Yeah.
elements to these digital
Yeah.
collectibles.
But people are getting annoyed because you have to join. You don't have to join, right? But if you join, you get like serviced in an express way.
Service.
Yeah, like priority customer service.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to get it serviced in an expressway. You know what I mean? You want to be serviced slow,
No.
steady. They can
You jump
take their
the queue.
time.
You essentially there's a priority queue.
There's a
Mike.
queue.
Okay.
And so you
So-
get to jump you go queue jumper.
There's a queue to service me. Okay. Whoa. Okay.
Not to service you, to be serviced.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're last again in Australia, so along with Europe.
Yeah.
I'm interested
Oh,
to
at
see
least
what it
it's-
is.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll
Just thinking
wrap
if
up
there's
the show
anything else
this
that I
week.
should make up. Yeah,
We're wrapping the show up. We're in the final segment.
Hey,
press
I
the
can press the button. I
Press
control
the
the
button.
button, so
Press that button, damn it.
I can do whatever I want.
Press the button. Thank you. All right. Look, I put it in here. We can talk about it whether or not we want to do it, but I thought it's probably high time we do a check-in on our gamer resolutions. We probably should have done it this episode if we were following
be
the
early.
Q3.
Be a pretty quick segment.
Yeah, so we'll do a catch up how we're tracking on our different gamer resolutions. But anything else you guys think you might talking about next week or showing off game-wise or?
Well, as a person who's trying to play games, I might try Overwatch 2, given that will be the biggest game this week. But outside of that, I'm just like not worried, but there's just like a shitload of games coming out in a few weeks. Like I keep talking about it, but you know, Mario Rabbids, Gotham Knights, Bayonetta 3, the new Call of Duty, which I don't know if I'll get, God of War Ragnarok. It's like a whole bunch of games within like a 3-week period. So, it's quite a lot to get through.
Finish Deathloop first.
Yeah, and Callisto Protocol at the start of December for you, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I was so tempted to buy the collector's edition, and I realized I value my life a little bit.
You don't even know if it's going to be
that
good.
comes home, I'm a dead man.
It wouldn't surprise me if that ends up slipping. I just got a feeling about that.
Yeah, but Dead Space looks like it will come out in January.
Imagine if they come out in the same
Play
week.
them concurrently. Yeah, it'd be cool to kind of just
No, but that's why I think even if you're, you know, whoever in the studio, Dead Space, I don't know if you saw, but they've got like a whole bunch of marketing for it, teaser trailers, screenshots. That seems like it's going to come out at the end of January.
possibly.
So if you're Callisto Protocol, you can't come out after that game. Like that will kill your marketing and buzz and everything like that.
Well, speaking of marketing, I've seen ads for the Callisto Protocol on Reddit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have an ad
Interesting
blocker.
place
That's
to put
interesting.
ads for something like that. Pre-order.
We're
here,
learning
blah,
about
blah,
you.
blah.
You
How
don't
is
have ad
that? How
blocker.
is that surprising? They like to
I don't know,
advertise games
because-
everywhere.
I guess so, but I don't. Maybe I just haven't been getting game ads in
How do you
my
get
feed
ads?
at all.
Don't you have an ad blocker?
I do, but it doesn't seem to work on the app. So
Oh, the app. Okay. I thought you deleted
If it wasn't
Reddit.
good- I'm saying in general. I haven't used it for. Well, actually, no, I did use it yesterday.
All right, so we
That's
won't be
actually
talking about
something
Callisto Protocol next week because that is not till December.
Well, you
But
don't
if
know.
there's
Maybe
anything
there'll be
else
some
you-
announcement of a delay, and then we will be talking about it. You have to eat your
There
words,
you go.
or they've
There
been
you
bought
go.
out by this Saudi fund.
All right, just that was my way of cutting down that the Reddit ad talk to wrap the show up. Anything else you guys going to cover next week, or
You already
can't think
asked
of
us.
anything?
We'll
Give
figure
me
it
another
out. during the-
chance. Stop being like attacking me. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to spur you, give you inspiration.
No, I might go
well,
back to
clearly not.
playing Last of Us Part 1 now that I've smashed out so much of Splatoon. So, yeah. Great game.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you listened to the show last week, but yeah, Last of Us Part 1, sorry.
Yeah.
Chef's
I
kiss.
want to get that.
It's
I actually
amazing.
want to get
It's
that.
actually
I just
amazing.
don't want to pay for it again.
Yeah.
But because I love that game. So
I know, Indigo, you've got a
I'll
good
get it again.
excuse. But Mike, like, we were the whole segment we were talking about that we're all like, no, we're not going to pay the extra money for it. And we're like, yes, Mike, you will. And it's like,
Yeah, that's true.
Eventually, I will.
true.
But no, I'm not paying anywhere near the full price.
Yeah, but you're
It's
paying
gonna
like
go down
$70.
to $30.
if you
or
want
something.
it, buy it. You know,
$30 I'll play it. For $30 I'll play it.
Cool.
I don't think it'll be
All right,
$30
well-
anytime soon, to be honest. But
All right, well, that's it
I'm
for
no
the
rush.
show then.
Yeah.
Thank
for
you
tuning in,
everyone for
peeps.
joining in the chat as well, and we'll catch you all next week. See you
Adios,
later.
amigos.
I don't see you. Bye.